The IINE Retro Pocket controller, or as it is called in their app, the IINE Chronos, is one of IINE's more interesting controllers. The idea behind it really was, let's make a fully functional, pocketable controller. And in some aspects they succeeded, and in some they don't. In part because they sacrificed some features in favor of portability. As of writing, it costs about $33 for the original two colors and about $26 for the two new retro-inspired colors. I got the retro grey as I liked it more than the black, but just days after I ordered mine, the retro-inspired ones were released, and you bet I would have bought the GameCube one. When it comes to first impressions, then I already have to start at the weight. Taking it out, it is the lightest controller I've tested so far, excluding the mini controllers obviously. It honestly feels like nothing in my hand, which really hits home that this is supposed to be a pocket controller. Next is how it fits in the hand. As a more flat controller like the SN30 Pro, holding it is not too unfamiliar to me, but while it fits well in the hands and pressing the buttons is no problem, I did find that the square design hurts the ergonomics a bit. The lower side cuts more into my flesh, and having it slightly more rounded would have helped that. Then the last two things I noticed were the lack of any additional buttons and the countersunk sticks. Both come also from its portability. But with the sticks, I did think that they either shouldn't lower them this much or make the hole more slanted. This is because I constantly rub against the sides, which feels strange during gameplay. The unboxing experience is quite simple. In the box, you get the controller itself, a USB-A to C cable, a manual, and two stick risers. Additionally, when you buy the retro colors, you are supposed to get a strap, but none of the promotional material shows what it looks like. I then also want to quickly talk about these risers. On the original two colors, you get these black ones with the IINE logo in the middle and rings around it. You get the same style in grey when you buy the SNES style one. I did however find that these rings attract a lot of dirt. On the GameCube styled one however, you get a grey and a yellow one in the style of the left GameCube stick, which makes the GameCube one even more appealing to me. Now what is this controller supposedly capable of? It comes with Hall effect joysticks, has a 1000Hz polling rate, a turbo function, comes in at 83 grams and has a 600 mAh battery. Then it supports the switching of ABXY to the switch layout, switching the D-pad from 4-way to 8-way, setting the rumble to one of three modes, 0, 50 and 100%, adjusting the dead zones and swapping the functionality of the left stick with the D-pad. To top it off, it is compatible with Switch, PC, mobile and cars, and supports the IINE's PC and phone apps. It's certainly not as much as with other controllers, to keep it more portable, but it's still what I consider fully fledged. When it comes to the hardware tests, there's some weirdness going on, but before I get to that, I want to go over the button actuation force. A took 110 grams, while B, X and Y took 120 grams, which is an alright consistency. For the D-pad however, it is 130 for up, 140 for down and left, and 145 for right. Also the D-pad sits flush with the shell once you press it down, which is something I'll get more into in the real life tests. Then we have the start and select with a nice 110 grams for each, and at last L3 comes in at 675 grams and R3 at 117 grams. All in all, I would call this a medium stiffness and it's consistent enough. Then I get however to the sticks. I did test the circularity error rate out of the gate. At first, they were stuck in a square gate with a rate of 8.8% and 8.7%. I tried a few things but couldn't change it. I must have done something at some point however, since I quickly retested them while writing this review, and now they are around with a rate of 0.2% on hardware tester and 0.7% for the left and 0.6% for the right with the joystick tester. If I had to guess, it was either me entering into calibration mode or me connecting the controller to the app, but I can't tell you which one. The conclusion I have to come here is that sticks were not calibrated out of the box, which I think is a bit of a blunder. What isn't a blunder however is the polling rate. Over Bluetooth, it comes in at a nice 500Hz max with an average of 362 Hz and a stability of 72.5%. Then over cable, it comes in at a stunning 2000 Hz max, with an average of 1838 Hz and a stability of 92%. This is the second controller so far that I had, which advertises a 1K rate, but ended up having a 2K rate. Can anyone explain why that is? Well, anyways, let's move on to the sound test. The sound is very classic to rubber domes, and it's not something out of the ordinary. It does, however, have a slightly deeper sound, making me think that the shell is a bit more hollow than I thought. Also, the D-pad can be pressed in a certain way, making a loud snapping sound. The IRL test was very simple this time around, seeing how there are no real extra features to test out. It might just be bad luck for IINE, but one of the games I tested this with is the newly released Hollow Knight Silksong, which made me use the D-pad more extensively than usual. Using the controller itself is not bad, and I had no problem with it initially, but after a while I noticed how my thumb actually started to hurt. I first wondered if it was because I played for 2-3 hours at this point, but then I came to a different conclusion. When you press the D-pad in one direction, then it actually sits flush with the shell itself. Because of that, your thumb is constantly under pressure. A normal controller has a slight elevation which helps your flesh to relax a little. At least that is what I think might be happening. Staying on the D-pad, I also did the contra test, and I can report that it failed completely. Not only is it prone to missing inputs, but because it sits flush with the shell, it becomes very easy to hit another direction by accident. Lastly, I get to the sticks. As usual, I tested them while playing Dark Souls. Because of how they are countersunk to the shell, you end up rubbing the rim closer to your hand. I think this is why they ended up including the risers in the box. However, to solve this problem, all they would have needed to do was raise the sticks by 2 or 3 more millimeters, giving you just enough of a gap to avoid this problem. All in all, when I look at what IINE tried to achieve with this controller, then I think they managed to pull it off. The controller is truly a fully fledged portable controller, fitting even in smaller pockets without putting a strain on the sticks. This, however, comes with its compromises, such as the D-pad and the sticks being not the best. Is the IINE Retro Pocket a good controller? No, not really when you look at other options. But is it a good portable controller? I think it is. As such, I would slot it right in between the two IINE Athena models. Are there any other controllers you want me to check out? Do you agree or disagree with this review? Well, just let me know in the comments below, and while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on future reviews.